Managing a small team or business comes with a unique set of challenges. With limited resources and manpower, it's easy for things to feel chaotic and out of your control. How can you, as a leader, accomplish your goals while keeping your team engaged, effective, and accountable? This podcast will give you practical strategies you can implement now to lead your team or business to reach its fullest potential. Welcome to the Organizing Chaos podcast with your host, Danny Coleman.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Organizing Chaos, where we talk about small practical strategies for small teams and small businesses. So today, I want to pick back up on the series that I was doing about my process. So I had some of you guys who called me out on the fact that I never finished it. You're right. I got excited about a couple different interviews that I had, and I wanted to kind of get those out. So I want to go ahead and pick those back up. So if you haven't heard it before, I've already covered step 1 and step 2 of my process. I will make sure that the notes, or I guess what the titles of those episodes are in the notes of this episode and on the YouTube description, that way you're able to find them. And then I'll probably go ahead and create a YouTube playlist when I'm done with all this, kind of putting them all on a cohesive playlist. That way you can kind of go through them all at once if that's something you'd like to do. But I want to jump right in to step 3. So like I said, we covered in step 1, we cover your mindset. What is the business supposed to be doing for you? What's the vehicle, or your business is a vehicle, where is it taking you? And so once you're clear on that, everything has to get clear there before you can do anything else. Because if you don't know where your business is supposed to take you, at least a general direction, then your business is going to drive you. Your business is going to dictate what your time looks like and what things you have to do on a daily basis. And so step 2 is then where we create your stop doing list. So we think about, what is it that you like doing as an employee within the context of the business, which is separate from what you do as an owner. And so you figure out, all right, how do I serve the business in a way that if I died, or if I completely had to stop working, someone else would have to take those responsibilities over in the business. So you're the owner, and then there's you as the owner within the business, where you serve the business as an employee would. And so we differentiate those things in step 2. And in step 2, we create what's called your stop doing list, which is what I've got up here on the board, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Once you've got your stop doing list, these are the things that you either don't like doing, they drain your energy, or you just feel like someone else could probably do them better. So that list is usually pretty big, and this is how you figure out how your team needs to grow. So the first thing that people get afraid of when they delegate things from their stop doing list to employees is things like, I feel guilty about asking them to do that without giving them a pay raise, or I don't pay them enough to do that, or no one would want to do this, I hate it, why would anyone else want to do it? Or you're worried about payroll. Those are all things you have to get rid of right now. Put those limiting beliefs aside right now, and just think about what it is you truly want. And once you see what this looks like, you'll be surprised at how often you're able to figure out how to do this with your current team. And I talk about things like delegation guilt and stuff like that on the podcast before, but I don't want to really rehash all of the reasons why you should delegate and how it's usually easier than you might think it is. But trust me that it is. And again, you can look back at past episodes where I talk about things around delegation and hiring new employees and stuff like that, where I could speak more to what might keep you from taking action here in this third step. So I'll just jump right into what you do, and it's really pretty simple. What you do is you take your stop doing list and you figure out what employees on your team currently, or what potential employees might you need to hire in order to handle those different tasks. So let's say, for instance, you're hiring people, and you're also administering payroll, and you're also firing people, and I'm trying to spitball here. Let's just go with that, right? Those are kind of HR type, admin type duties. On a small business, if you're a real small business, you're around the 10 size, or somewhere around under 20. Oftentimes those HR type responsibilities are going to fall to you. You might hate those. Those might really slow you down from doing what you're uniquely qualified to do. So as such, you need to get those off your plate. And so if those things are on your stop doing list, you create what's called a position agreement, and you push those responsibilities to that position agreement. And what you do is, as you go through your list, and then again, this is what I do with my clients, is I help them go through their lists, and then we figure out, hey, what things kind of fit together to give to someone, kind of things that can cluster together, like the activities I mentioned earlier. You can take other stuff like maybe inventory management, and administrating the POS system, your point of sale system, or things along those lines, maybe more operational types of duties. You can create another position agreement for operations manager. You call it whatever you want. It's your business. And so the point of this exercise is to try to figure out how to group the activities that fit together, right? That maybe lend themselves towards a certain personality type, or it lends themselves towards a certain skill set, and you separate those different things throughout your business. So that way you've got maybe an admin related position agreement, you've got maybe an HR position agreement, and maybe you've got a manager position agreement. And again, I'm spitballing here with titles. But the point is to try to figure out how those things on your stop doing list can be delegated to someone else in a way that makes sense. Now, sometimes you might think, well, hey, my stop doing list, I've got 3 different position agreements that come out of that. I'm basically wearing 3 different hats. That's a good way to think about position agreements, is they're like hats, the different hats that people wear in a small business. So when you have all these multiple hats, you might think, I can't hire 3 full-time people, and that's fine. What you do when you create your position agreement, your position agreements, plural, is you don't have to worry about like hiring someone for each position. See, here's the thing about position agreements. When you're getting this stuff off of your plate, you don't have to hire 3 people for that. This might be one hire who's got 3 different position agreements. They serve the business in 3 different capacities. So as your business scales, instead of one person holding all 3 of these hats, you may be able to spin one of those activities off because maybe it's taking more time, right? So you hire another person. They wear one of those 3 hats, and the other person retains the 2. That's how you're able to organize what has to get done in the business, right? Because each position agreement has a certain result statement, right? So there's this HR one, for instance. We'll spitball here and say the result for this position agreement, if you are holding this position agreement, this hat is yours, then you are responsible for properly administrating HR related policies, hiring, firing, and termination. Things along those lines. And again, I'm spitballing here with a lot of my examples, but I'm hopefully driving home the point that you don't have to have 3 different people just because you come up with 3 different position agreements. You find, you have 3 different ways to maybe separate out the things that you have in your business. You don't have to hire 3 different people for that. You can have one person do that, but this gives them a clear result that they're supposed to be fulfilling with these tasks that you've gotten off of your plate. So those are the things they're supposed to do, these tasks you've gotten off your plate, your stop doing list, and then the result that they're supposed to be creating with those tasks. Hopefully that makes sense. And what you're doing here with a position agreement is you're managing people by objective. This empowers them to fill in the cracks and think where you couldn't think, and rise to the occasion. It develops them. Really, it creates people who think more autonomously, think on their own, to be able to fulfill the needs of the organization. So you manage them by the objective of saying, hey, here's the objective for this position agreement. Here's the things that I've been doing to try to satisfy this. And then you'll see as your business grows, that position agreement's going to grow. And that's how you scale. It's easier to scale when you already have the position defined. It's been getting defined as your business has been growing. And then once it's time for a full-time person to come in and do that, or it's too much rather for one person to wear, like I said, all 3 hats, then you can split it up however you need to. Keep 2 hats with this person, hire a new person, for the 3rd hat. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but really what you're doing is you're just moving stuff off your stop doing list onto the lists of other people, essentially. And then you hire people to wear these hats, whatever number you're able to afford. That's how you get going. And again, it's not about getting it perfect. You're not going to get it perfect. I'll flat out say that right now. You're not going to get this perfect, but it's about making progress towards you focusing on the things that only you can do, again, which makes you happy, gives you energy, keeps you from feeling a slave to your business or slave to your team, and you empower other people to fulfill other responsibilities within the business. And then lastly, so now that we've got this done, we've got what you're supposed to be doing, and we got what these other 3 hats are supposed to be doing. Excuse me. We create an organization chart, which hopefully you can see that on the board here. But basically, an organization chart, the reason it floored me when I first got on a team with an organization chart. I was just like, what in the world? Are you kidding me? We're like 10 people. Why do we need an organization chart? That's what corporations have. But this is the structure that you need. And a lot of times, I don't want to dive too much into organization charts, but think of them just as a communication map. who's accountable to who, and who do you go to for certain questions. This is a big thing, especially if you're a small business owner, because you usually get all the questions. You get texts all the time, you get phone calls all the time, you get stopped while you're at the office all the time, everyone's always interrupting you while you're working or whatever. That's because they're coming to you for all the questions. If you have an organization chart, you may be able to explain or demonstrate to them that, hey, here's where you are, this line goes up to this person. When you have questions, ask them first, and then that person asks you. That's how you keep yourself from being overwhelmed by all the people on your team asking you questions. You have to empower managers or in-between people to field those questions for you. And an organization chart helps clear that up. So I apologize for that loud sound that I got here on the podcast. Maybe my editor can edit it out with his editing magic. But either way, that's pretty much it. That's what we do in step 3. Help people, we got to stop doing this from step 2. We figure out where those need to go, the different position agreements that should exist in order to handle these responsibilities they're trying to get rid of. And then we look at what they're able to afford to figure out how we're going to configure someone else taking on these different hats, whether it's someone currently on their team already who's going to wear all 3 or whatever number we come up with, or maybe someone on their team can take a few of them, but we need to hire somebody else to come in. And usually what I find during this time is the first person I help an entrepreneur hire, even if they already have a team, is someone who's like an office manager or an admin assistant. Because as you're kind of figuring all this stuff out, it's really difficult at the beginning. So oftentimes what you need to do is kind of start with a miscellaneous type position, someone who catches all the stuff. But then as your team develops and as you follow and stick with this process of creating position agreements as your business scales and then assigning those to certain people, that allows you to kind of keep things making progress, but without getting overly stagnant on achieving perfection, because you won't achieve it. So anyways, hopefully that all made sense. One bonus thing I want to throw in here real quick, or bonus thing, whatever, tidbit, is that the way position agreements work, and I have a couple different episodes about position agreements on the in past episodes, is that you might have one person holding 3 hats, but multiple people cannot hold a single hat. Does that make sense? Because if there's more than one person accountable for something, no one's accountable for it. So for instance, in this example that I was given earlier, if you got an HR person or whatever, you can't have 2 people holding that same HR type hat, that same HR position agreement. Because if you do, you have 2 people accountable for the same stuff, which again means no one's really accountable for it. So again, I hashed that out more in past episodes. Check those out, but I wanted to just kind of throw that in here real quick to make sure that if you're kind of going through this process, you realize, make sure that no 2 people or more have the same position agreement. Everyone's position agreement should be different. One person can hold multiple, but multiple people cannot hold one. Anyways, hope you guys are doing well. Please shoot me an email if you have any questions about this or you'd like to talk to me about it. Danny@DannyColeman.me. Again, I'm still working on some worksheets that will eventually take this whole process. You'll be able to work through it yourself. But if you are interested, it is something that I do for my clients. I help them hold their hand all the way through this process, help them problem solve, set goals, and get through it within a 3 to 4 month period. So if you have any interest in that, like I said, shoot me an email, Danny@DannyColeman.me. I'd love to interview you if you're someone who has a message to share with other entrepreneurs and small business owners. You can follow me at Instagram at I am Danny Coleman. And I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. We'll see you later.
Want more? Go to DannyColeman.me to download Danny's free small business hiring guide, which includes tips, templates, and tools, plus a step-by-step process you can use to find and keep high-quality employees for your small team or business.